Okay, we are now recording. Okay, if you came early, you saw that I was just sort of playing here with these brushes and, just kind of having a good time. We're not going to do that, and we're not even going to save this. We're just going to get rid of it, and we're going to start off with something else. If you remember, let me see. I want to open up a new document, though. Now, I'm going to be working with a document that's 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels by 150 pixels per inch. Okay, if it was 100 pixels per inch, this would be 10 inches by 10 inches. So it's actually a little smaller than that. So that's what I'm going to be working with, and we'll pull this up here and open it up a little bit. And I don't need that anymore. There we go. We'll come back up to our brush. All right. The first thing we're going to talk about is that new feature where we have vertical docking in Painter. And I love it. I mean, I really, really like it a lot. I think it allows me to really put everything that I want open, and I like to have a lot of things open on my desktop. It puts everything that I want open, and it keeps it really neat over on the side. Now, I know that a lot of people talk about that you can't, they're hidden and stuff like that. The tabs are hidden, it's hard to find them and blah, that kind of stuff. Let me close this here. This blocks my screen some. So we'll put it right over here in the corner. Maybe that'll be okay. All right. Let's see. We're on, where was I? Oh, yeah, I was talking about docking. Well, like what we have now is we have a palette that contains a lot of panels. Now, if you notice, I have 4 panels on this one row. That may be too many in that particular row. You might want to rearrange that. But anyway, that would make it a little easier for you to see where your tabs are. But I don't have a problem with that. I can find them like this. Now, what you want to know about Painter 12.2 is that you can move the palette by using the top button, the top gray area where this little red button is. You can move that whole palette that way. You know that you can move a panel outside of the palette, or you can move it around inside of the palette. When you see the little blue line that pops up, it's going to tell you where it's going to go. And I want to put this, I want to leave that dab profile up there. I didn't put it in. Let's put it back. All right, let's put that back in there. All right. But what's really neat about 12.2 is before we had to move one of these, each one of these one at a time. In other words, I couldn't move 2 together. Now I can. If I use this gray area right out here, I can actually move 2 panels at once, okay? Or I could move 4 panels or 3 panels, however many. And I can also bring those same panels back in by moving with that gray area. Now I'm going to move this until I see that little blue area up at the top, and I'm not seeing it yet. Let's see if no, I didn't quite get it. And that's always hard for me. So I'm going to pull this out. And I'm going to pull out my calibration, which goes with my dab profile. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to give it one more try. And what I'm going to do, instead of trying to get to the top, I'm going to come right underneath, and that will put me in it, and I think will give me the chance. There we go. Got it back up to the top. Now, you guys will be much better at this. I'm an old guy, so sometimes moving these things around is a little difficult. But it is neat that we can use now 3 areas to move stuff. The gray one at the top to move the whole palette, the individual tabs to move just that panel, and the gray area out beside the tabs to move all of those. Okay. But we can then also dock. Now, I'm going to take my navigator, my color panel, my layers and channels, papers, flow maps, pattern libraries, pattern gradients, all of that stuff. And I'm going to run it over here to this side, and I have to keep going until you see a blue line. And when you see that blue line, you want to let go, and it will automatically dock it over here on the side. Okay, now, if I want to take this and put it over there, I would do the same thing, but watch. When I let go of this one, nothing happens. Even when I take it all the way over, nothing happens. Well, the reason it doesn't happen is because there's no room down here for the panels to fit without it going off screen. So what you want to do, if you want to use a lot of panels like I do, you want to close this panel and close this panel. Now I've got plenty of room to put the rest of the stuff in. And there it goes. So you'll have to remember that you'll need to, make them smaller. Now what I do is I keep these things pretty much. Now that was interesting. You just slipped right out of place, didn't you? I pretty much leave these things closed all the time and only open them up when I need them. And I get used to where they are, and I really try to keep them in the same order, and I get used to where they are, and so I kind of know where to look. Now tonight you'll probably see me, struggle to find them, but you'll see. I really like this. I think it's a much better way of working. All right, so I'm going to bring now my toolbar and my media bar over here to this side, because these should not be docked. I mean, you can actually dock them, but if you dock them, you can't dock anything else. So you don't want to dock these. Just put them next to the docking. And I'm going to take my color set libraries, and I'll bring this over here. And once I get that blue line, I can let go, and there you go. It pops into place. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to bring over my mixer pad. Now this is kind of interesting. If you bring it over, get the blue line and let it go, notice that my docking opened up wider. And so before I brought this over, I set the color mixer up showing the colors that I wanted to work with tonight, okay? And so I can also take my custom palette and put that over there. Now, do I want to take it like this and go through the blue? I can. See, I could take it over here and wait till I get a blue and do it. Or I can take this over and see the little blue line right at the bottom of the mixer pad. If I let go, it's going to put it right where that blue line was. Now I want to open this up. And remember, we now can move individual palettes inside of our we can move individual panels inside of our palette. Let me get that right. Okay. All right, so that gives you an idea of how this works as you just slip it over. And I think it's really a much better way to work, and I hope I prove that to you tonight. Now, let's see. Yes?
I'm just getting a little bit worried here. As many times as I've done these, is everyone entering questions in the chat window?
Yeah, no, they should be in the questions window. Are they in the chat window?
Okay, because I don't have a questions panel.
Well, maybe we're crystal clear. Oh, you don't? Oh, my fault. Y'all, hold on a second. I have to do a little housekeeping here. I did something terribly wrong. Let's get this going. And I need to go to my staff. Let's see, staff, and we click on Tanya, make her an organizer. Okay, you should have everything down, Tanya, do you? Uh-oh, did I lose you?
Nope, I'm here, all is good.
Okay, great.
Muted. Unmuted.
You just got me muted. That's fun, Tanya. Okay, so all is good.
I'm going to take a look at the question.
Okay, good. Thanks. I appreciate it. So sorry about that. All right, so this is showing you how this works. Now, I actually have a palette that I want to use that I call my favorite arrangement. And this will be the one I'll use tonight and the one I like working with. Okay, so now we've got this untitled up here, and I want to make it as big as we can make it. All right, so now we're going to talk about flow maps and papers and real wet oil and all that stuff. Now, you guys, I hope you've watched the videos about flow maps that have been provided with Painter12.2. It should give you a general idea about flow maps, how to make them, and so forth. And I don't want to cover all of that same information again, but we can go over, if any of you really need some extra information about the flow maps, please ask, and we can certainly go over it, because I want everybody to understand how these things work. They're absolutely wonderful. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do, let me think. I have to think a minute. I'll get confused. The first thing I want to do is I want to switch to a flow map brush. Now, on my blog, I've given you all of the brushes I'm going to work with the exception of a David gel brush called What You See Is What You Get, or WYSIWYG paper extractor. And later today, I forgot to put it in there this morning, but later today I added the link where you can go and get that from David. It is free. Okay, so I'm going to go to this very runny oil map, and you'll see that the real wet oil over here on the right hand side, you'll see that the real wet oil panel has now become active. And this brush is just set up to be really runny. It's set up to run down the page at 100% with 100% wind force. And it's automatically set on flow map. Now this is your control here to decide if you want to work with just the paper. You can work with just the paper and the flow map will not work, or you can work with the flow map. Now, the paper does get involved in it, especially if you have something as high as 100% grain. That means that the paper is going to be involved somewhat. But when these paints begin to run, you'll lose seeing that those paper textures. I'm going to come to my layers, and I'm going to add a new layer, because believe it or not, I hate working on the canvas layer. I like keeping it clean, and I think the real reason for wanting to keep it clean is because I work with watercolor so much, and I'm frequently dropping a layer to the canvas layer and then lifting it to a watercolor layer. So I need to keep the canvas free for that. All right, so we've got this very runny oil flow map that I made for you. Now, any brush can be changed into a real wet oil brush, and all you have to do that is you want to go to your I said I would find it. There we go, General tab. And in your General tab, any brush, if you change the method to wet, okay, the method to wet, and then you change the subcategory to real wet oil, you've got a real wet oil brush, and then you can play with the real wet oil panel to adjust the brush. And we won't talk a lot about that, but we'll talk a little bit. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to take this brush, and I've got paper showing. I'm using gessoed canvas, and in flow maps I have this strange looking flow map here. I'm going to change it a little bit to like that, so that we have the lines or the flows are in black. Let me just show you what that looks like real quick. That's what I made the flow map from. So all I did to make this flow map was just take a brush and sort of brush down this image on the canvas layer, and I just used black and just made these kind of runs. Now all you need to do at this point is go Control A to select the whole image, Control A or Command A, that selects it, and now you just come over here to the Flow Map flyout menu or Option button. I like Option button better, and you just click on Capture Flow Map, and what'll come up is a little name box, and you'll name it, and I called it Oil Drips, and there you go, you have your flow map set up. Okay, get rid of that. Now the flow map, this brush is going to run so much that the flow map is going to affect the run, but it's not going to run down these drips. Don't expect that. So let's see, we want to close my flow maps again, and we'll close my papers, and I guess we're going to have to take my flow maps and put it right back in. There we go. Close that. There we go. Now I'm back up to where I want to be so that I'm seeing my palette and my color, my mixer pad. So I'm going to select this kind of dark blue-green, and I'll start painting with it. Now this brush has a lot of hairy stuff to it. The dab profile is real hairy, but I kind of like that because what I can do then is if I put a lot of paint up at the top and then I bring down a little bit like this, it gives you a little bit of a difference in the way the flow looks. And there you go, I let it go and it's beginning to flow. Okay, now you're seeing that it's flowing a lot, but it's not flowing down the page real rapidly or, you know, really making a lot of drips or anything. That's because over here on the Real Wet Oil control panel, there's something called Accurate Diffusion. Now that is a wonderful object to keep checked because it gives you the correct diffusion as it's flowing. If without it checked, it's possible that you can get these vertical lines. I get them in a lot of my watercolor, but in some of the watercolor I like it, so I leave it on the accurate diffusion off. And in some cases I don't particularly like it, and all I have to do is set it up. But it will slow down your movement. So let's get rid of this, and I'm going to take off accurate diffusion, and I'm going to come over here and paint again with accurate diffusion off, and again we'll come down and put a little stuff in here. Okay, let's put a little more up here. The amount of flow is also can be determined by how much paint you put on the canvas. So we let it go. Now let's see what's going to be the difference here. Oh my, isn't that fun? I love this. Now what you can do a couple of things. You can pause the diffusion, which will stop it. You can also click on accurate diffusion, and that will almost immediately stop it. If it's got a big run, it'll continue to run. This one went all the way off, but you see how the others kind of stopped. Now this little vertical or horizontal and vertical kind of lines, that's what comes from having your accurate diffusion off. I kind of like this. It looks like it's adding another bit there. Okay, so now this brush has a lot of blend rate, not bleed, sorry, blend rates at 100%. So what that means, we're going to take this back again, and I'm going to come up here and click on, let me turn my mail off. I don't need to be having that going. Okay, so I've got my pause diffusion on, and that's, you can find that over here on the right in the Real Wet Oil panel, or you can find it up here. It's not concentration, which I call it all the time. It's pause diffusion. Concentration is this slider here that sets the concentration of the brush. So this is pause diffusion. All right, so I'm going to stay with our same little color here, that sort of yellowy green that's a little bit on the dark side. And since I have pause diffusion on, then it's not going to run. And so I can come up here and grab a light kind of yellow and put that in. And I can get a sort of a dark, let's get a kind of a turquoisey blue. Actually, that would be like a phthalo blue. And just for funsies, we're going to take this bright orange, and I'm going to make my brush a little smaller, and I'm going to put this bright orange right here, and I'm going to try and put a lot of paint there. And I'll put another one here with a lot of paint, but not down so far. And then we'll take one with a little smaller brush size. Come on, get small for me. What are you doing? There we go. All right, so I'm going to take one, and what you're going to notice is these are going to run down the page, but they're also going to spread some, and I want you to see how it spreads as well. Okay, so we've got all this set up now, and we're going to hit pause diffusion. Got to take off accurate diffusion because I want it to really run, and I'm not going to stop it. If it runs off the page, that's fine. I'm just going to let it go. Okay, taking off pause diffusion. And there you go. I love watching how it breaks. And, you know, really, you can stop this at any time. If you see a look that you think is really pretty, go for it. But look at how these blend and how beautiful the blends are. You know, look at this. Yes?
We had an interesting question, and I don't know if you found a way to do this,
okay.
But can you create a flow from the bottom of the page to the top, depending upon your flow map?
Sure, that's easy enough. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just go back to concentration, and I will go back up one. You can back up once and you lose some of the brush strokes that you did, but you're back to where you were to begin with. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over so I don't have to repaint this. So I'm going to turn it over 180. Oh, I don't want to commit it, but I guess I have to. So if I have to commit the image, that's not going to help me. Cancel. Cancel. Okay, so we'll come up here to layers, and we'll just delete the layer, and we'll add another layer, and this time we'll go back to that same brush, and we'll grab the blue color, make it a little bit bigger again, and we'll put it down here. And then we'll grab a little of the yellow-green color. And how about let's see, let's go with this this richer brown. And we'll put a little of that there. Now, here's your trick. Let's close that. We come over here, remember, the direction of the flow is determined by the angle and the force, okay? So I'm going to add a layer to this real quick, and I'm going to grab my pencil. It's right here, and we'll go to black. Okay, so I'm going to make a circle, and we have an axis through the circle. This is 0. This is 90 degrees. This is 180 degrees. And this is 270 degrees. And this is 360 degrees. So if I have the force angle set at 270, it's going to go down the page. If I have it set at 90, it's going to go up the page. If I have it set at 360 or 0, it's going to go to the right, 180 to the left. And if I come anywhere in between these two, then the direction will be wherever that angle might be. If it's right here, the direction will be slightly that way. And so a lot of times, especially in watercolor, you can set your direction up and let it bleed up the page, you know, like kind of like clouds might work with that. So that's what you want to think about is you've got this angle, and remember it's 0 all the way around to 360, okay? And the direction is the angle. Now we're going to get rid of that layer, come back to our other layer, and I'm going back to my runny oil brush. Oh, shoot. When you, oh no, I didn't go out. Oh, but I did change. When you change brushes from a real wet oil to another type brush, you usually lose your pause diffusion, but we'll see anyway. I'm going to take off the accurate diffusion, and I'm going to move this down to 90, and I prefer to just type it in because it takes less time. Okay, now we're going to take off pause diffusion and hope it's still active. And it's not. Don't you know, it's always going to be that way. So after I explained all that, we'll add the layer back, put in the pause diffusion, and I'll just put those right back real quick. Here's some blue. Here's some yellow. Yeah.
I have videos where you're showing this also on a YouTube channel. I'm sure you have them on your website also.
Actually, I don't have them on the website. I have all. No, are you talking about the ones for the flow map information that I did for y'all?
Well, I was thinking about the pause diffusion and.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I don't think I have those on my website either. I think they're just on yours. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, Tanya. I know they're on your channel.
They're on our YouTube channel.
Right, they're on your YouTube channel.
YouTube
yes.
Painter Tutorials, you can find them.
Right. You know, it's funny. I'm getting where I don't know what I have anymore on the blog. Okay, now we're ready to undo. We've got our accurate diffusion off. We have our pause diffusion on. We've changed the angle to 90 degrees. We're staying at 100%, and we let go of the pause diffusion, and zoom, up the page we go. Yay! I used to, oh, I know, I just think this stuff is so pretty. I could sit here and play with this all day long. Now, another thing that you can do, I'm going to pause diffusion and it stops. But this stuff also responds to dry watercolor layer. I don't know if the programmers know that or not, but I'm sure they do. But I was really surprised. You can let your pause diffusion go and come over here to dry watercolor layer and click it, and it will dry that layer. Now it will, even if no matter what I try to do, I can't get that to run again. It's going to stop. Now your dry watercolor layer, you can find that at layers, all the way down here, dry watercolor layer. And remember, it works with real wet oil as well. Okay, so there you see it's going up the page. And another fun thing about that, let's put pause diffusion back on. Actually, with pause diffusion back on and we do a backspace, I can get back down to the original and do it again. I wanted to show you one other thing you can do, which is really cool. So we're going to let off the pause diffusion again, and we'll let it start running up the page as we saw before. Now at this point, I'm going to stop. Pause diffusion, it begins to pause. So now I'm going to change my angle to 0, which should force it to go right. So I let go of pause diffusion, and there you go, it starts going to the right. So if I stop again, and let's change this to 180, and I turn off pause diffusion, release pause diffusion. Now it's going to start going the other direction. It all depends on how much flow is still left in the pause diffusion, and each time you switch back and forth, you can lose a little bit of the flow. But you can see along this line, it's beginning to move slightly in that direction. So, you know, play with it and try moving these angles and going back in and out of pause diffusion. All righty then. So, what are we going to do with this? You know, I mean, I love these backgrounds. I think they can be so pretty and so forth. And, you know, but backgrounds are kind of special, and rather than letting Painter do everything for you, we probably want to control it a little more. Now, I have an image here I want to show you. This is by Pinot. Oops, we've got the, there we go. And what I want to call your attention to is right over in this area right here, you've got runny oil coming down the page. And, you know, it's runny kind of here, so he's doing like a glaze, and he's letting it run, and he's scrumming up the surface in other places, and he's, excuse me, using thick paint. And I mean, I just love the sort of painterly quality that you can see some of the artists do. So that's what I wanted to try to emulate. So let's get rid of this, and we're going to add another layer, and we're going to talk about emulating what went on there. Let's go back and look again. Now, what he's got is sort of some thick green here, and then he's letting this run happen down the page. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our brush, and I'm going to stay with my very runny oil flow map. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm going to go, I need to put the thick paint down first. So I'm going to go to, I'm using bristly dabs, and in that set I give you for the webinar, the bristly dabs that I'll use are in there. But, you know, if you download bristly dabs, you can have the whole set. So let's see, I'm going to take, I think I'll start with 14M. We'll go to this kind of dark green that I have here, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to start, you know, putting some of this paint down, even thick, you know, like that. And I'm going to come out now with 12M, and it's a little smoother, but it also has a little bit of brush stroke to it and adds a little touch of the canvas texture, which I like. And I really love thick paint. I'd love to be able to really paint with it well. Okay, so I've got, you know, this looking the way I kind of want it at this point. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come under here, and I'm going to add another layer underneath. Okay, and I'm on the layer underneath. Now I'm going to switch to my very wet, very runny wet oil map. I'm going to make sure the pause diffusion is on. It's on. And I want to take this size down a bit. Now I'm going to use that same green, but I want to gray it up a bit. Okay, up to around there. Same sort of color family, but grayed a bit, because it's going to be runny, right? And it's going to be kind of gray. All right, so I'm going to come under here, and I'm going to put some paint here. I've got on pause diffusion, so it's not going to run yet. I'll put some over here. And I'm going to make my brush a little smaller, and I'll put some right here. Go back over here and put a little more over here, put a little more in there. I want to get enough so that it's going to run. All right, now that that's been done, I look over here at my panel. I want to take off my accurate diffusion. I've got my angle at 270, 100%, all that's still right. Everything is right. Flow map is set up. And I come over here and look at my flow map. And I still have the oil drips there. So we're going to let go of pause diffusion. And there you go. It begins to run. I'm going to hit accurate diffusion and stop it about there. Okay? And that's all I'm going to do right now, just that little bit. Okay, then I'm going to come to a brush called, it's 11MN. It doesn't have any impasto. The bristly dabs, if they have an MN, it means no impasto. If it has a M only, that means it's impasto. So I want to use the one that's not, actually, yeah, the one that's not impasto. All right, I'm still on that same color, and all I want to do now is I just want to come in. This brush is real textured, and I just want to kind of smooth out some of this. Let it look like it's a little bit more, you know, maybe it's spread out to the canvas a little bit. Now, that still doesn't look like Pinot, and I could go up here to the layer and maybe reduce the opacity of the layer and get it to look a little bit more like it's running, but it really just doesn't have the look I want. So we're going to create something that's going to make us fix this, make it look right. So I'm going to come down now. I'm going to minimize this. And I'm going to open up a new image, and this one's going to be 1000 by 1000 by 100, okay, because I'm going to keep it kind of small. So there we go. All right. Now, on the canvas layer, now you could actually do all of this in the image itself, but I would rather create some patterns that I can use later. And that's what I'm fixing to do. I want to create a pattern from this canvas texture. I want a pattern that's just like this canvas texture. And in order to do that, let me give some credit to some people. I found out about this technique through David Gell's site, which is www.jitterbrush.com. And David Gell is amazing. I mean, he knows everything. He really does. I mean, it's surprising. But he had a way of changing paper to a pattern. And so I followed what he did, and it was a really good solution, but I decided to simplify it a bit, and I think it works pretty well. So what you need to do is you open up a canvas, you're on the canvas layer, and you grab that brush that's called WYSIWYG Paper Extractor. Now, when you paint with this brush, you see it just gives you a nice pattern. But I want this pattern to be seamless so I can use it all the time. So how am I going to make this pattern seamless? Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over to my Patterns control panel, and I'm going to click on its Option button or its flyout menu, and I'm going to click on Define Pattern. Now, it won't leave a check mark beside it, so you won't know if it's on or off, but it is a toggle. And if I click it, it closes, and now watch what happens. Paint in the center, everything's the same, but if I come over here to the edge, notice that it wraps, comes right back in. So that means that is a seamless edge because they match. Same thing at the top. So now all I have to do is go here and just run this seamless edge all over the place real quickly, okay? Now, once that's done, then what I want to do is go Control A, and I get the marching ants, or Command A for the Mac, marching ants all around, and I come back over to the patterns, and remember this is seamless now, and I come back over to the patterns and I just say capture pattern. And when you capture the pattern, it will ask you for a name, and you just give it whatever name you want to give it. So we're using one called Gesso Canvas. It's already set up for you because I'd already saved it. Now, let's see if there was something else I wanted to tell you about that. I thought there was, and I lost my train of thought, so I'll probably remember in a minute. All right, so now I've created this pattern. I would probably save this image somewhere so I could get back to it again and save it as, you know, seamless paper image. Okay, so I'm just going to close this now and get it out of our way. And I'm going to open our image back up. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here above that green layer, and I'm going to add a layer. Okay? Then, now that my patterns is current, the Gesso canvas is current, I'm going to come up to my fill tool, and I'm going to check up here. I'm going to fill with source image. Now, you might think, well, the source image would be a clone source image, and that's true. But if there's no clone source, Painter defaults to the currently selected pattern. So if I fill with source image, I'm going to fill with a pattern. Ta-da! Now, that doesn't look too wonderful, does it? It just covers everything up. But what I want to do then is I want to come up to my layer, and I'm going to change that layer to gel or multiply, either one. Now I can see through, but I've still got all that gray look and so forth, and that's not very nice. So I take it down to somewhere in between 10 to 15%. And now I can just see that canvas texture lightly on the surface. And this is looking a little bit better because I get texture over it, but it's still not good enough. Okay, so I'm going to add another layer on top, and once again I'm going to fill with that pattern. This time I'm not going to reduce the opacity, but I'm going to change the composite method from default to overlay. Now, overlay, if we get in, let's get in a little closer to this. Now, overlay, see how that's beginning to give us this, it looks like it's pooling in the lines and stuff. Now it's beginning to look wet. But we got all this stuff over the top of it, and we probably don't want that stuff there. One of the things I didn't do that I usually do is I'll add some, you know, I might just stain the canvas lightly before I start so I'm not looking at white. I did that in the other webinar, but I forgot about it this time. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take it back to the size we were before. Let's bring this back over to the middle. Is that the size we were before? Let's see, we'll take it there, and then we'll take it down a little bit, but I want to come up some from there, about, all right, about there. I think you can see it. All right, so I'm going to come back over here to this first image, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer mask. And you do that by clicking on this little icon here. So I click on layer mask, and it adds a layer mask. Now to paint on the mask, and I'll pull this out in a minute and show it to you, the whole thing, but to paint on the layer mask, you need to have a black line around it. Tanya, try to remember to remind me to pull the layers out in a minute. So we have to have a black...
This is your 15-minute warning, Skip.
Oh, gosh, are we that close? My goodness. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to put that mask on there, and I have a brush that I put in. This is a Karen Bonnecker brush that we kind of changed, or I helped her change. It's we called it KB Real Wet Feather Channel Brush, but I further have tweaked it some more, and so now it's KB RW Feather Channel 1. Anyway, it's included in your set. And so because this is white, if I paint with black, then it conceals what's on the layer. So if I take this brush now and begin to paint here, you see it can, stop. Yeah, I'm on it. Okay. All right, you see it conceals that canvas texture, okay? But what I think is probably better, and Tim Shelburne suggested this, instead of leaving it black, it's easier to put the canvas texture back in. So what I would do is I would use my I would use my paint bucket, and I would change it back to current color, and while I'm inside of the mask, I'm just going to fill it with black. Now when it fills with black, all of the texture goes away. The texture we're seeing here is from the mask above. Okay, now that we're black, I have to switch to white, and the white will start revealing what's on the layer where the black had concealed it all. So we go back to our brush, and now when I begin to paint, you see I'm painting the texture back on. Now you can, what's really fun about this, we can, you could put some more paint in these places, and maybe it'll be real thin looking paint, and you'll want that texture to show. And then in some places you may not want the texture to show. So you can decide where you want to put this stuff like that. Okay, so we're kind of putting it all back, but that gives you an idea of how you can work that back in. Now let's go up to the second layer, and again we're going to put, I'm really hitting things. Oh, I've got the wrong pen. Goodness, that's awful. I have a grip pen and an art pen, and I kept dropping my grip pen, so I need to buy another one. It's just really retarded. It acts like it's, like it's got a short or something in it. Anyway, we're going to come up here, and we're going to add a layer mask to it. Make sure you're in the black area. Again, I'm going to fill with black. And as you can see, now all of the texture that was in here went away, but the texture that was out here, of course, didn't, because it's on a separate layer. All right, again, I'm going to go back to my feather channel brush, and because it's black, I need to be white, and I can come in here and I can begin to, now look at how this looks. You can really start to see how it makes it look like it's right into the canvas. See, and I can even bring some up here. But I wouldn't want to bring any over the top of that, because this is thick paint, and you want to be able to, to see the thick paint. Okay, guys, we're at 9:51, and I want to make sure everybody's on board so far with this. So are there any questions that I need to answer, Tanya?
Yes, we just had one, and I don't remember which brush that you used to make the pattern paper texture right before you did the define paper command.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the brush I used was what you see is what you get paper extractor, and that brush comes from David Gell at jitterbrush.com, and the name of the set is Pattern Pens Plus. You can also use Concept Glow. I think it's in Concept Glow as well. But it's definitely in Pattern Pens Plus, and David has it on his website, and they are free to download. The link is on my web blog. Okay, any other questions at this point?
Okay, cool.
Okay, great.
Yes. There are some from a little bit earlier on that you could just answer without having to demonstrate.
Okay.
There was a question about if you have pause diffusion on and you rotate your canvas,
yep,
that's not going to impact the flow of the paint, is it?
No, not at all. The pause diffusion, or the angle that you have the angle that you have set for your wind force, does not stay vertical when the paper turns. It turns with the paper. Okay?
Right, right.
All righty, good. Anything else?
What about if you wet the watercolor layer? Will that cause the paint to flow through the map?
No.
I've never tried it, so I'm not certain.
No, it doesn't, but here's the reason why. You can't wet the watercolor layer with a real watercolor brush. The only way to wet the canvas layer is with a watercolor brush, ones that are here in the water area. See, if I come up here right now, let me go back to select. All right, now we've got a very runny wet flow map. And if I come up here to layers, wet entire watercolor layer is not available to me. So consequently, there's no flow maps with the water, so there's no flow map to interact with it. See, if I go to a watercolor brush, let's see, we can go to one of these. We'll go to Pencil Blender Wet. All right, so if I go to that, now when I paint with this, I would get watercolor setup. But if I go to layers, notice that now it's not there. What is going on, Skippy? What'd you do wrong? What? I'm in the right thing. Let's see, what layer am I on? Let me come down. Oops. Do that. Put that back. Let me come down. Before I forget, let's just bring this out and we'll look at it. Okay. Now we're on this layer, and if I come up here to layer, oh, I don't have a watercolor layer, sorry. What a dummy. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this, layer to the canvas. And then I'm going to come up here, go to layers, and I'm going to lift canvas to watercolor layer. All right, now I've got a watercolor layer. I have a water brush. I come up to layers, and now I can wet the entire watercolor layer. Now when I wet it, I'm just going to go in and do it. It's going to wet a lot, but you're not seeing the effect of flow maps. You will probably see some of the paper texture show. Okay, now I'm going to go Control-Z and take that back, I hope. There we go. And I need to go back another one. Okay, now we're back. I'm going to lift it again to the watercolor layer. And this time I'm going to go back to a real wet watercolor brush, real watercolor. I'm really having trouble with these words tonight. If you come over here to our real watercolor panel, you'll see that's a real watercolor brush. But if you come up here to layer, you cannot wet the entire watercolor layer with that brush. It has to be one of the others. So we don't have a way of doing a flow map with wet entire layer. Okay? I hope that was clear. Any other questions?
Yeah, how did you get, which brush were you using for that impasto look on your canvas right there?
Well, any of the bristly dabs that have an M after the name will give you the impasto look. The specific brush was SA Impasto 14M that gave me this thickest stuff. Let's see, let's go back to here. So that will give you, I'm on white, that will give you the thickest stuff that you can work with. But I mean, it's not, each one of these brushes is a little bit different. You know, if you go to Impasto 8M, this brush is kind of a pointy brush, and it's, oops, I hit the wrong one. I'm on MN. You want M if you want impasto. Notice that when I paint over here, though, you see how you can see that, you know, I'd added some of that overlay to it, so you're beginning to see it. So anyway, this would be a pointy kind of brush, but it's also very thick, like that.
I love that brush.
I like it too. Yeah. I'm glad you like it. So any of them do it. Now some of them are more like textures, like the 11 and 10 M's. Those will give you more textury looks. Now this is still an impasto brush, but it's very little impasto. And you'll only see it when you kind of get close to it. You might can see little streaks in it. And I wanted this brush to kind of get a nice, you know, brushy look. Now, one thing about these impasto brushes, too, let me close that up a little bit. They're very sensitive to pressure. So when you press hard, you're going to get the paint. As you reduce your pressure, it begins to show more texture, and it also picks up the white of the canvas. So as I begin to continue, now I've never picked up my brush, I can get this kind of look, or come back and get, you know, cover over. Now the minute I pick up the brush, I'm back to adding green until it dries out, and then it blends. And this is with any color. See, once it dries out, I'm mixing all those colors on the paint. That's what I love about these bristly dabs. You have to get this sort of stuff with the drips and whatnot, but using a regular capture dab, if you go to your well panel, you want to work with your dry out. Way down here in the bottom right corner, if you can't see me, you have to work with dry out, and you'll reduce your dry out, and that tells the brush how long to stay wet and when to dry out. And once it dries out, it's almost like you have your resaturation set to 0, and so it becomes a blender. See? And it can actually, when you're working with an impasto brush, you see how it can actually come in here and change the look of that impasto. Oh, and look, we can see the paint underneath.
Mm-hmm.
See, like that?
Laura said that you're doing a great job of explaining things.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's do one other thing right here, because I like this stuff. I think it's pretty. And I'm going to go back up to, oh, the layers are over here now. I'm going to go back up to, let's bring this back down. And I want to come back up to here. And we'll, all right, y'all know that I'm on the layer mask for this top layer. That's the one that's on overlay. I'm going to close this again, and I'm going to get my feather brush, and it's black, so I want to go to white for my brush. And what I'm going to do is bring in some of that. Look at that. See how that just suddenly got wet and just right into the canvas? Isn't that gorgeous? I just love this stuff. And I'm not even painting right now. Now, you know, I was painting earlier, and I got rid of it. But you get the idea of how this would work if, you know, you just decide how you want your background to be, and these two patterns that we put on the top. Again, that was originally from, I was taking a course in Photoshop from Tim Shelburne, and he tried it on one of his, and I mean, it's a lot different in Photoshop. Not a lot, but you know, they've got adjustment layers and stuff like that. So I tried it to see if we could do something similar in Painter, and we can. So I just love it. I just think that's so pretty. Anything else now? Because I mean, I've sort of told y'all pretty much what I wanted to tell you.
Yeah, there's a few questions around flow maps, and
Okay.
I can't tell what flow map that you had activated there. So were you using your own custom flow maps, or
Yes.
ones included? Okay.
Yeah. No, I was using custom flow maps. See, the whole time I've been using this oil drips. Now, the reason I was using that is if I changed this flow map, well, I'll tell you what, let's stop for a second and show you something else, because this is important, and I hadn't shown this. It'll just add a few minutes to it. If y'all don't mind, I'm going to put this layer back over here because I can't stand anything open now. So I've been ruined by docking. Okay, so put it up there next to layers. There we go. All right, I'm going to come back down here, and I'm going to add a layer. Now, I've got this oil drip flow map. I'm going to take the paper and change it to oil drip flow map. Somewhere I have oil drip flow maps. Right there. Ta-da! Now, it is not the same way. Okay, so we put it that way. Now, what we've got here is we have both of them with the lines in black and the other background in white. The reason they don't look the same is that your paper library shows the upper right corner of the whole paper. Your flow maps show the whole flow map, okay, which I like. I'm glad that we can see it, because then you can kind of tell where you want to work and where you don't want to work. Okay, we've got both of them there. Now I'm going to take my runny brush. I tell you what, we'll take a different brush. We're going to take one called Pale Runny Flow Map. Now, what Pale Runny Flow Map will do is it will it gets very, very light as it dries. As a matter of fact, it's almost too light. So you might want to change. I can't quite get the knack of that. You want to change your settling rate. You can bring that all the way up to 100, and it'll make it darker. Okay? So let's go on and get a dark color again, and I'm going to start painting with this flow map. And I also want to, oh goodness, I want to click on Pause Diffusion. Okay, hope that stops in a minute, sorry. Okay, we're on Pause Diffusion. Now watch when I begin to paint. Oops, something's wrong. I want to take my grain all the way up to 100%, okay, for this. Now, see how the flow map, the black area is being protected. Okay, now it's not protecting it all the way, because when this begins to flow, it's going to spread out some and you know, change the way this looks. But it will be affected somewhat by this. So I'm going to take off Accurate Diffusion, What just happened? Everything went off. Let's close that for a second and reopen it. I don't know why that did that. So I will switch to another runny brush. Well, I only assume that it's working when I took that off. I don't know. Goodness.
It might just be slow.
No, I'm on the wrong brush, too.
Oh.
I must have slipped off that brush, and that's unfortunate because I probably lost. I can't get back to that brush. Uh-oh, Painter. What'd you do to me? Well, let's see. What can I do to figure this out? We'll get rid of the layer.
And just saying you're on watercolor panel.
Oh, thank you. But no, the real wet oil isn't showing either. I'm not on the brush. But see, for some reason, I can't get to the brush. Let's see if I can get to it this way. Pale. There we go. Now we're cooking. Okay, whatever happened was something weird. And things like that will happen on GoToMeeting because of the extra stuff. All right, I'm going to take off Accurate Diffusion, and I'm going to click on Pause Diffusion, and all of that back and forth took off, killed my Pause Diffusion. So we'll just come in here and get rid of this real quick, and we'll do it one more time. We're using the running flow map. Everything is set up. Okay, put in that color. We'll put in a blue. Okay, that's good enough. We'll click on Accurate Diffusion and click off Pause Diffusion and let her begin to run. Now see, you're getting some running in the flow that's coming down the lines, but it's not protecting it completely. But notice how much different this looks than what we had before. Now I'm going to click back on Accurate Diffusion so it'll stop, and we'll come up here. Oh goodness, I'm on the same layer with it. Ah, why didn't you stop? Well, there's a better way to do it. I can hit Pause Diffusion, and I can hit Dry Watercolor Layer. That'll fix you. Now, I let it go too long because I'm getting these lines that I was talking about when you take off Accurate Diffusion. But if you catch it quick enough, you won't get those, and that's what I was hoping to do. But this look is very different. Now, another thing I want you to notice is as it pulled through these other colors, it picks up some of that color that's down there. That's because the pickup is about 10% on these. And so when you run through some paint that's already there, you'll pick it up. Now let's reverse this, and I'm just going to turn that layer off, and I'll turn that layer off so we can really see, and we will add another layer. Okay. Now this time I'm still in my pale flow map, and I'm going to close them at the moment, and I will pick, let's use acid green. Now see how it's painting in the lines? It's giving you a little bit outside the lines, but it's painting in the lines. Now the reason that looks different when we're going down that color, the fact that it looks kind of wet and the others don't. Remember, I have that layer mask set up. Okay, and we'll put a little darker color in. Now, see, when you have a big place like that, that's probably going to give you several different runs. That one could probably give me several. And these that are fairly straight will come straight down. Okay, so now we're going to we've got Accurate Diffusion off, and we're going to click on Pause Diffusion, take it off, and there we begin to run. And see, it's holding back a little bit because it runs in the white areas and kind of stops in the black areas. So remember, the white areas where the runs, and the black area was the other way around. I think that's the way I have it. If not, it's the other way. But anyway, notice I stopped this and I left some of these little lines in there and so forth, just because I thought it was nice. And again, if we come up here to the top and we turn off these patterns that I have up here, you see that's what the flow map looks like without the pattern. And that is very beautiful, I think. I mean, I like that a lot. And so if I were to come in with my 11M Impasto brush, there's those little lines coming in because I didn't click accurate diffusion fast enough. But I could come in here and begin to just add a little bit more stuff to it. Now again, this brush is set up to respond to grain, so it's going to respond to that paper texture and leave those drips there. So that's kind of something else we could work with. You know, you learn something every time you play with these things. You learn a little more. So remember that with paper and flow map the same. So we have the paper as a flow map, and we have the flow map the same. Darn. And I got to close that. And I can get it in now. Okay, we got the paper and the flow maps the same. And like I said, the flow is going to run faster in the white areas than it will in the black areas. But anyway, don't you think that's kind of neat? Any other question? Ooh, we got to go. It's 10:14.
I love it.
Thank you. I love it too. I really do.
I have one more question for
Okay,
you.
sure.
Which brush did you create this oil drips flow map with?
Gosh, you mean the one of these?
Don't worry about it.
The pale runny flow maps. I'm almost positive they were all made from the bristly dabs that don't have impasto, because they you know, I like the dabs that are there, and I actually added a dab to one of them. I made one. I added a new bristly dab from. I made this from the flow map. I made this one from the very runny oil flow map because it has that real hairy brush dab that I really like. Oops, let's make it smaller. See, it has that kind of hairy brush dab. Now these things, the impasto is set up with pressure. You see how that looks like it's cutting into the paper? That's because I'm pressing real light. But if I press heavy, now we're going to build impasto. So the amount of impasto that you put down is dependent on the pressure that you add. So it's just back and forth. I mean, remember, to make this brush a real wet oil, I come to General, change Cover to Wet, change Wet to Real Wet Oil, and we look at the, come on, you can fit in there. No, you can't either. Oh, I can just hear Winifred now. Winifred told me that she doesn't like the, Winifred Whitfield told me she doesn't like the
docking?
Yeah, the docking, and I really do. But because my brush is kind of old and funky, when I click, I hit it too hard or something and I pull it out. But anyway, you go now to your real wet oil again and see what's set up. And we'll make this one really wet. So I'll bring down the viscosity, I'll bring up the wetness, I'll bring the concentration down a little bit. We want to bring up the settling rate all the way up. We'll bring the blend weight all the way up. I'll leave the pickup at 20. That sounds good. That's good. Take the dry rate down. We'll leave the force where it is, and we will increase. By the way, this animation, if your brushes are slow, increase your animation up to 10. That will help speed them some. Not a lot, but it'll speed them some. Now let's go up to the layers. And I want to turn this layer off, and we'll add another layer so we can see what this flow map looks like. Am I still on the SA Impasto 16M that I've changed to a real wet oil? Right. Okay, so we just start painting. Ooh, God, what a color. Oh, you know what I've done wrong here? I'll tell you in a second. I left the impasto on, so it's showing the impasto. It's still working, though. I mean, it works. The problem was the color. So let's fix a couple other things real quick. We would go to impasto, and I would change that to color. And the other thing we have to go to is to well. Remember I told you the dry out was what makes that work? You cannot use dry out with any wet brush, any watercolor brush, real watercolor brush, or real wet oil brush. It will give you really strange colors. So you have to bring that up all the way up. Now we have a brush that doesn't have impasto, and it is a runny oil. See? So you can take any brush and just switch them back and forth. Isn't that pretty? I like that.
So everyone is saying huge thanks to you right now.
Oh, good. Thank you, everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they're saying keep going, Skip. But I know that
we can't.
It's getting late.
Yeah, it is getting late. Plus, the recording gets to be huge. You know, we're talking about a gigabyte of recording. So,
right.
Anyway, y'all, thank you so much for coming to the webinar. I hope you got something out of it. I will have these posted. It's probably going to be a couple of days before I get them up, maybe 2 or 3. And Tanya, thank you so much for helping me tonight. That's above and beyond the call of duty. You're working overtime. I hope they pay you extra.
No problem, Skip. Okay. I enjoy it. I learn a lot from everyone's questions. So now I know some tutorials that we should be creating to address some of the things that we didn't quite get to.
Oh, great. Well, let me know what those are, and we'll make them all up.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Tanya. And thank you, everybody. And I will see you down the road. Bye-bye.
Bye, Skip.